Ladies and gentlemen, fellas, happy National Say Something Nice Day today. Make somebody's day today. Pay it forward, hey. And if you want to take another step, buy that person behind you a coffee in line today, because y'all die in the end. You might as well do more good deeds than bad deeds and end with some nice taste in your mouth than a sour taste in your mouth. You didn't ask for that, though. I'm sorry, but the number 6 play on the day today. And yes, we're only doing a top 6 today. Just a 3-game slate. We'll get back into the more plays that we break down on these biggest slates. We got some 4-gamers coming. Number 6 play on the slate today for me right now is going to be one Yusuf Nurkic. And here's what you need to know. There you go. It's just seal on the day. Seal Sal. Here's what you need to know about Yusuf Nurkic and his Portland Trailblazers team. They're running barely an 8-man rotation. Look, Enes Kanter's kind of out of the rotation now. If you watch the last game, he's kind of getting mismatched. He's not really giving them what he needs to. One, I mean, he doesn't play defense, but two, I mean, they want him for his offense, and Yusuf Nurkic seems to be fully healthy now, and they don't really need his offense at this point. I mean, Rondae Hollis-Jefferson played more minutes than him in that last game, and now Rondae Hollis-Jefferson is like the 7.5 man into the rotation, right? They're kind of giving him some run, but 7 guys are playing strong minutes, and you kind of know those guys, right? You know the starters, and then off the bench, you're getting a Carmelo Anthony and Anthony Simons, and Yusuf Nurkic right now is playing fantastic since he's returned. I mean, since the beginning of April, Yusuf Nurkic, when he has returned and been out there, averaging 1.36 fantasy points per minute. That's more than anybody else on this team, more than Damian Lillard. Now, of course, he's not playing as many minutes as Damian Lillard, but he looks good. And he's played upwards of 33 minutes again in a game in the series. I have Yusuf Nurkic today for 32 minutes of play, and I'm not giving him his 1.36 fantasy points per minute. That's where his ceiling comes in. That's where he gets to the 40-plus fantasy points that he scored a few times in this series. I've used Yusuf Nurkic at just 1.2 fantasy points per minute today. And for me, that makes him project out for 38.4 fantasy points. Now, there's a lot of great centers on the slate today, and a couple more we're going to talk about in the top 6, so that's where the difficult part comes into play. Ownership can help you with that later on in the day when we have the live stream. Be sure to like and subscribe so you know when that's coming out. But it can be a little bit difficult to kind of figure out where to go at center today, as there's other centers on the slate. We can talk about them in a couple of moments, but it is a very top-heavy slate for centers. Like I said, we will be live later today. You can like and subscribe to this channel, and if you hit the notification bell, you'll know when we're going live. We'll also be beginning to drop daily NFL videos that started yesterday. There's one in the hopper for today around noon to 1 p.m. Eastern time. They're going to be short. They're going to be around 10 minutes long or so, but they're going to be punched with a lot of information. It's a totally different vibe to those videos. So if you like these ones, I would encourage you to check out those ones. The number 5 play of the day, we're staying right in Portland. I mean, I just talked about it. I just talked about the value that these guys are giving you. So there's value plays in the slate, and we're going to continue to get to some. And also, we just talked about 2 Portland guys now. We're going to get into Robert Covington, but also Damian Lillard. If I did a full top 8 plays in the slate, Damian Lillard would be on my number 8 play. And number 7, if you're curious, would be one Jason Tatum, playing 40 minutes. The only guy left out there. Kemba seems doubtful. Seems like potentially Kemba played his last game in a Celtics uniform. There's a chance that could happen, right? Robert Williams doubtful. No Jaylen Brown. So there's some discussion there for you. Now, I do have 12 players as yeses in a player pool today. I do have a player pool of far more than that on a 3-game slate. You can find all that on Patreon down below. But Robert Covington at $4,800 today. Look, we've been liking him since game 1 of the series. And how did Robert Covington start the series off? He started the series off by playing big minutes and playing not so great by any means. And why was that? Well, in game 1, he played the least minutes he's played in this series. He only shot 5 times in that series. He didn't get to the free throw line at all. He picked up a couple of peripheral stats, but it just didn't all come together for him. In game 2, he shot terrible on only 3 shot attempts. And now he's finally getting some of this volume and just playing more minutes. 39 and 36 minutes in back-to-back games allow you to have more rebounds, an 11 and a 9 rebound game, right? He's shooting 9 and 6 times, 15 times compared to 8 times in the first 2 games, basically doubling his shot volume. Doubling your shot volume, playing more minutes, getting more peripheral stats allows Robert Covington, for a man whose price point started at $4,900 in the series and is cheaper than when it started at $4,800 after back-to-back games of 27 or more fantasy points, looks good for me. Now, he's not projecting out that highly for me in terms of 27, 28, the 30 that he scored in game 3, but I do have Robert Covington for 26.1 fantasy points today. And on the screen right now is add more funds. And this is since the start of April. So now it's June. So happy June today. Happy June 1st. It's been 2 months with this sample that we're looking at. And Robert Covington has played the 3rd most minutes on this team. His average is 0.7 fantasy points per minute. So not great, but it's the fact that he's playing a lot of minutes. I have him at 0.72 fantasy points per minute, closer to his overall season average, if you will, not just since the beginning of May. For 37 minutes of play today, Robert Covington for me, the number 5 play, at a little over 26 fantasy points today. Now, as we get inside the top 5 to the number 4 play in the slate today, I mentioned that the center position is loaded today. And this is what I like to see. A value play at center who's going to probably be really highly owned, and I like leveraging and pivoting off of guys, but I don't know if I want to get off of this one. He's an old player. He's somebody who's been dusty. I've called him dusty. But he's going to get minutes today. Anthony Davis is unlikely to play for the Los Angeles Lakers. Marc Gasol played close to, and he's played in back-to-back games now. He stretches the court and plays a little bit more defense than Montrezl Harrell, but he's probably going to play in this one mid-20s a minutes. I have Marc Gasol just 24 minutes today. With no Anthony Davis at all in this game, now I would not be shocked to see Marc Gasol play 26 to 28 plus minutes. But he's at $3,600, and at 24 minutes, I already get enough of him. I have Marc Gasol at 19.9 fantasy points. Let's call it 20 fantasy points today. Why is Marc Gasol going to play a lot more today than the Markieff Morrises of the world and obviously the Montrezl Harrells? Because he stretches the court. I mean, LeBron James, you can just look at what he's done really everywhere in his career. I mean, just look at the Miami Heat days. It was very Giannis Antetokounmpo-esque. Now, LeBron's jumper and three-point shot has improved since then, which is something that maybe Giannis will develop into as a younger player. But it was Stretch and LeBron, just like Stretch and Giannis. Clear the lanes and have shooters around him. Now, the Lakers don't really have many shooters. Maybe they get KCP back today, probably their best shooter, right? They don't have much after that. But Marc Gasol is a better shooter than Montrezl Harrell. Marc Gasol is a better shooter than Markieff Morris. So he's going to be on the court more. And I would expect them. I think the best lineup that they can start with is Marc Gasol starting. And if that's the case, that just locks him in for 20-plus minutes. Probably locks him in for 24-plus minutes, barring any foul trouble or injuries. And we can look quickly with Anthony Davis off the court this entire season, what happens with the Los Angeles Lakers. LeBron obviously does his thing. Andre Drummond's going to play minutes. I just don't think a lot of minutes out there. Again, not a guy who stretches the floor. He can't shoot threes. Marc Gasol averages the 4th most fantasy points per minute. He actually comes alive, if you will. Now, it's a 540-minute sample, a good sample. 1.03 fantasy points per minute. So Gasol's a fantasy point per minute producer with Anthony Davis off the court. You give him more run, it looks good. I don't even have him at a fantasy point per minute today. I got him at like 0.92. So if he averages a fantasy point per minute today for my 24-minute projection, I mean, he's going to absolutely smash this price out of the water. So Gasol is the number 4 play on the day today. And as we get inside the top 3, I want to let you know about the sponsor of the program today that allows these shows to continue to go out, even for the 3-game slates, even for the 2-game slates, the live streams later in the day. That is going to be Prize Picks. It's an over-under site, right? You take the over-under on fantasy points, you take the over-under on props. You know props. Whatever the sport is. For the NBA, it's assists, it's three-pointers, it's points, it's rebounds. You take the over-under on those. I have a couple that I like early on today from the fantasy streets aspect of this, and I think a couple of them are massively underpriced. You want to tail these, you can, or you can just pick whichever ones you want personally. But if you use the code SAL, S-A-L, there's a link in the description below. Prize Picks will personally match whatever money you put in up to $100. So if you use the code SAL, that link, you want to try out some props, a different way to play, different way to get some sweats, a lot of fun. It's a ton of fun, and it's very simple and easy. Simplify the way you play DFS. That code SAL, any money you put in, your first deposit, you put 25 in, bang, you got 50. You put 100 in, bang, you got 200 now. Check it out. And if you're a New Yorker out there, this is the only legal spot right now that you can be playing on props. If you're playing anywhere else right now in New York, you have the liability of losing all your motherfucking money in those accounts. So what I like right now, we're going to continue to roll out the over-under on Joe Harris. It's worked 2 out of 3 times. That's not the only reason I'm doing it. I have Joe Harris projected today for around 25.5 fantasy points. We'll take the over 21. Robert Covington, I have for big minutes. We just talked about him. I have Robert Covington for 26. We'll take the over 22 there with some blocks upside. And then these ones you can feel out on. Campaign, it banged up CP3. I got him over 20 fantasy points today. I got him well over that. I got him for 25. He didn't close out the last game. He had a personal foul and a turnover. There's a chance he can close out the game and actually play upwards of 30 minutes. So he looks decent. And Kyle Kuzma under 25. Look, I know Anthony Davis is out. There's a lot of bodies that they can fill in time for here. One being Marc Gasol that we just talked about. Kyle Kuzma was not a lock for more run in that last game in the second half when Davis didn't play. And I don't expect him to be in this one. I only have Kyle Kuzma for 20 fantasy points today. Again, they have Marc Gasol. They can dust off Montrezl Harrell for a couple of minutes like they did last time. Same exact thing for Markieff Morris. You might see some minutes for a Talon Horton-Tucker. Heck, if KCP comes back, Wesley Matthews plays a few minutes, and there's just not much chances for Kyle Kuzma. He doesn't set up nicely in this series. He doesn't stretch the floor nicely. He doesn't really play defense. He's just not the type of guy you want on the court in a playoff series, especially the most pivotal game in Game 5 of series tied 2-2. So you can use the code SAL. You can tail those, or you can pick any ones you want. Want some dollar whiskeys? What are you waiting for? Code SAL, double your money. Prize Picks up to $100. Number 3 play in the day today is going to be a man that I've continued to play. A man that is only going to look better now with no Anthony Davis out there on the court. And no, he's not a Laker. He's on the opposite side of the court. He's a big man who's just banging around, getting a ton of minutes. And that's DeAndre Ayton. And DeAndre Ayton played 39 minutes in that last game, and he checked out with like a minute and a half left down the stretch, right? Just didn't match up well for what they wanted to do. So he would have played 40-plus minutes. I have Ayton at 39 minutes today. Ayton on the season averages 1.06 fantasy points per minute. Pretty decent point per minute producer, so a little over that. No Anthony Davis out there, who's already been having success against. And I know he's a center. Davis plays power forward a lot of the game, so he matches against Drummond and things like that. But Davis is the best defender on this team. He'll slide down and help, especially in crunch time against the DeAndre Ayton. So now Ayton's going to look even better in this one, playing massive minutes. And the price point just really isn't changing all that much on DeAndre Ayton. For a guy who's playing 40 minutes out there as over a fantasy point per minute producer, who's going to project out for close to 40 fantasy points, should be an $8,000 plus player. DeAndre Ayton started this series off as a $6,000, $6,200 player, so I know that the price has come up a lot, but it just isn't getting there yet. If this series goes 7 games, expect Ayton to be an $8,000 plus player, so you're still getting him at a value today. I have Ayton right now projecting out for me for 41.2 fantasy points in 40 minutes of play, I have him as by far the best play on this Phoenix Suns team, ahead of Devin Booker and ahead of some other value options. So give me Ayton as the number 3 play on the slate. And as we move now into the number 2 play on the slate today, that man's name is going to be another center, Nicole Yokota. So you can see right here, we've talked about 5 players so far. 4 of them are centers. This is the dilemma that I'm talking about. Spoiler alert, number 1 is not going to be a center. It'll actually be a guard, but a pretty good guard and a lot of value on the slate now. So this is your issue. You have the Nicole Yokota go all the way up to the top rope, right? And he is my highest projected stud today, or highest valued stud at 10,400. But there's a lot of merit to say, the opportunity cost at the center position. Why not go to a Durant who continues to ball out, a Harden who continues to ball out, a Tatum who has just nobody really going to take away his usage, and they fill a different position for you? And that makes a lot of sense, and that might be where I end up leaning depending on ownership, because it's hard to get away from the Marc Gasol value. And then throwing up a coin between Ayton and Nurkic at similar price points seems like another nice option for utility. But it does look like a 2-center slate. So Jokic at 10,400 does grade as my best overall value. I have him for 58.6 fantasy points. I have Jokic as my highest projected play on this 3-game slate, and it's by a decent amount. I have Jokic today projected for almost 5 points more than anybody else in the slate. Again, the opportunity cost, though, of what you can put in that other center position with a use of Nurkic or an Ayton if they score 45 today, and then the ability to just get somebody who somewhat matches Jokic in that 10K plus range at a different position allows you to just obviously have a higher ceiling. Now, no matter who you take off the court this year, and a bunch of guys you can take off the court, the Will Barnes, the Jamal Murrays, the Gary Harrises who are not on the team who played decent minutes, the PJ Doziers, right? In a 480-minute sample, Jokic is averaging 1.6 fantasy points per minute. And he's basically averaging that on the year as an MVP. I have him for 1.6 fantasy points per minute today. Again, the highest projected guy in the slate for me. He's good. The problem then becomes just the opportunity cost. So Jokic grades out well, but there is a lot of merit to probably not be playing him, not because of himself, but just because of how you can construct lineups today. I don't really see any props that I like personally on him. Again, those projections, the entire player pool, it's June 1st, so no better time to sign up for Patreon than right now. Your budgets are in order. You got it all situated. Sign up. You're going to be getting just every single week MMA, every single day MLB projections and tools. The optimizers for golf and all that every single week in MMA. And obviously all the way until the mid to end of July with the NBA playoffs, then into the NBA finals, and then into the NFL regular season, preseason, all that type of stuff. So check it out. Link down below on Patreon, patreon.com/Sal_Vetri_. It's a bunch of tools. It's not, play. These are my picks, my top lineups. If anybody's doing that for you, they're scamming you. You're paying for a scam, so stop doing that. It's tools and analysis to reduce your research time, increase your chances of winning, and join a community of Discord access, all that type of stuff. So check it all out down below. The numero uno play on the slate today. There is a doubtful Kemba Walker. Assuming that he misses this game, this is the number 1 play in the slate. This man is a better point per minute producer than the guy who started last game. Romeo Langford stinks, so he's not this guy. Romeo Langford averages like 0.55 fantasy points per minute on a good day. No. Peyton Pritchard for the Boston Celtics, though, right, is somebody that I can get behind. Peyton Pritchard, right now for me, is not projected out for an insane amount of points, but he's just $3,200. In that last game, Peyton Pritchard played 23 and a half minutes off the bench. Aaron Naismith played about 20 minutes off the bench. And you saw starting in that game Romeo Langford, who again stinks. Peyton Pritchard, I'm not shocked if he starts in this game for more offense against a Brooklyn team that just you need to put points up against, i.e. that last game, i.e. Jason Tatum going nuts yet again. Peyton Pritchard has been averaging on the season. If you take off Jaylen Brown, you take off Kemba Walker and Robert Williams, the 3 guys who expect him as today. He plays the second most minutes per Pritchard, which is something, and it shows you in the past, can predict the future in a lot of situations here. The second most minutes behind only Jason Tatum, so a little bit of security there. 428 minutes, and he averages 0.99 fantasy points per minute. Now, I know Romeo Langford was out for the far majority of the season, so maybe that actually cuts into it. Maybe Langford would have been playing the second most, or they cut into each other a little bit more, and it's not that high for Peyton Pritchard, but Pritchard played the same amount of minutes in game 1, basically off the bench as Langford, offers better offense, averages a 17% assist percentage, which is good to see as well. And for me today, he's grading out right now for 19.3 fantasy points, and that's if I only give Peyton Pritchard 23 minutes of play. If he starts, I would not be shocked to see Pritchard play 28 to 30 minutes of play, and then he's just a slam dunk play, right? Now, obviously, he's going to play somewhat limited minutes, 23 minutes, so there's a chance that he shoots poorly. He shoots 1 of 7, and yeah, he's not going to get you there. But we're playing probabilities here. And on a 3-game slate, you have the ability to play Peyton Pritchard, who looks to be in line for 20, 25 minutes or so, somewhere around there, as a good point per minute producer, $3,200. That's fantastic on a 3-game slate. And you have the ability to play Marc Gasol today. So there's value. There is actually the ability to play 2 studs. You can play Jokic and a Durant. You can play Jason Tatum and a Durant, right? You can do that today because there's enough value, let alone some of the other value guys in the slate, like a Robert Covington at $4,800. Like an Alex Caruso, who doesn't look as good as some of these guys, but $3,600 for a guy who was absolutely making trouble for Devin Booker towards the end of that last game. Caruso played fantastic defense. Now, if KCP comes back, maybe that slides over and you get KCP's offense on the court a little bit more, but Caruso, $3,600 in play, right? So there's some options here for you. But thank you for tuning in today. Thank you for tuning to the top 6 video for this 3-game slate. We'll be live later today, so make sure to like, subscribe. You're not subscribed right now. What are you doing? And notification bell so you know when we're going live later today. Support the sponsor of the show, Prize Picks. Take the over-unders. What are you waiting for? Take the over-unders today. Use that code SAL, SAL, to get a double your money bonus up to Up to $100. Whiskey's my two favorite plays over there. Robin Covington over 22 fantasy points and Joe Harris over 21 fantasy points, as well as Kuzma under 25 and Campaign over 20. You all rock. I'll see you in the live stream later today. Peace out, gang.